Hello all and welcome to the GMAT Advanced Target 700 series, the seventh installment of the verbal part of the whole series, which is intended to help you boost your score to a 700 plus in the GMAT. Now, as we discussed in the last installment of the series, we ended off with a tone of the passage question. And we also discussed that in the next video, we are going to look at this particular topic in detail, because along with the main message in the passage, or what is the main idea or the central idea, or what is the primary purpose of the passage question, that is one very important group of questions. Another one is the tone of the author, right? And a lot of candidates struggle because this is a topic that is not very well discussed across all of GMAT literature, and this topic is actually more nuanced than most people believe it to be. All right. So that said, let's begin this particular session with the tone of the passage. Now, before we get into tone of the passage as a topic, let's first elaborate on what is tone, what is polarity, and what is style. Why I said that the tone of the passage is given less importance than it should be is because there is hardly any publication, or for that matter, any institute that have gone into the detail of what are the different elements of English writing. When an author is writing, is he only concerned about the tone, or should our only concern be the tone? What is the difference between tone and style? What is the difference between tone and polarity? And what is the difference between polarity and style? Now, if you ask yourself these questions, there is a high chance you might also be kind of confused between these three terms. You might think that tone and style is one and the same thing. Polarity is something that a lot of us might have encountered, but could not specify that, this was something that was related to polarity. So let's first clarify our doubts about these three topics. And before we will proceed, I would request you to institutionalize these three topics that I'm telling you and kind of build a framework, because as we will see in the remainder of the session, we will use this framework to tackle some of the most complex questions that you will encounter in the GMAT, right? So without wasting any more time, let's begin with tone. Right now, generally in most GMAT questions, you will be asked about what is the tone of the passage. Right now, the passage is essentially a written piece which has a lot of words. Words contain cues. Similarly, when you are communicating with somebody, even the non-verbal text, or what is the non-verbal aspect also conveys a lot of things about what you are trying to say. But given that this is a written piece, you will be only limited to understanding it through the verbal way. Okay, and what is the verbal way? The verbal way is to understand the meaning of each particular word. Now, tone generally refers to how a writer uses certain words in a specific way to convey emotion. Okay, emotion is the key here. So when you are writing a piece, you can try to show that you are probably happy or you are sad, right? And how will you do that? You will do that through the use of some words, probably some adjectives, some adverbs, probably some nouns as well. But words are basically going to be used to represent emotion. And by the way, this is a tricky subject because it's not often very easy to emote with words, right? Part of the reason why you have a set of icons, or whenever you are writing, you have a set of phrases that are also used to augment the representation of emotion, right? So as I said, the tone is used to primarily convey the emotion about the specific subjects, right? Now there might be just one subject in the passage, or there might also be multiple subjects, right? In a GMAT passage, you can have one or more subjects, right? And this allows the author to attach emotion with facts. Because generally in a passage, what do you have? You have some facts, you have some opinions, you have some assumptions, you have inferences, right? Now you have facts, but what do you believe about that fact? How does an author emote to that fact? What is it that the author is feeling about those facts? That is where the tone comes into the question, right? Now, if that is tone, what is polarity? Okay. Polarity usually refers to the degree to which a writer feels or emotes about the subject, right? Now this allows the author to attach intensity with emotion. Okay, mark the word intensity. Now, what is emotion? Emotion can be being angry. Okay, let us say I am angry. That is an emotion. Or I am happy. What is the intensity? I can be very angry. Or I can be very happy. You know? So the polarity of a passage, and that again can probably be used, or can be indicated by some adverbs, or it can be again be demonstrated by some adjectives. But this together with emotions allows you to figure out how happy, how convinced, how critical the author is of a particular subject. Okay, so I hope the understanding between the tone and polarity is clear. Now let's come to style, right? Now, you would have come across style, and style is a lot of times invariably used with tone, but that is not really the case. In most instances, style usually refers to the purpose of a written piece, okay, and is an indicator of the intent of the author. Okay, so style basically tells you why is the author writing this, what is the intent of the author behind writing it. Okay, now for example, a writer may be wanting to explain how something works, or he might be wanting to persuade you to agree with a particular point of view, right? So let me give you an example, right? So let us say I as an author am trying to explain you the inner workings of let us say the carbon cycle. Okay, so I can just explain to you how the whole carbon cycle works, that people breathe in and out, that carbon is captured by plants, the plants die, the whole carbon sinks to the bottom of the ocean in the form of rocks, or it is a part of the soil or things like that, right? So I can just be descriptive about the whole thing, and my tone might be very, very neutral. Okay, then I might also include things like how as humans we are interfering with the carbon cycle, and then I might become critical of the role of the humans, right? So I could have written the passage just to explain to you the carbon cycle, or I could have given my views on how we, or humans are impacting the whole carbon cycle. Okay, then I would have taken either a positive view or a negative view of that. Okay, similarly, when I took a positive view of human influence, I could have taken a very, very positive view, or if I took a negative view, I could have taken a very, very negative view, right? So the intent, tone, and polarity tells you, first of all, what is the purpose or the intent of the author? Why has he written the piece? Okay, what is the emotion, if he is feeling anything about that particular piece? Okay, and what is the intensity of that emotion? Okay, so let me give you a few examples here. Let us say that you have a passage where you have, let us say, concern. An author is showing concern that probably the number of a particular species is going down. Okay, at the same time he is saying that the number of species is going down, let's take some corrective measures, but he is not going to the extremes, right? So what would be the tone of the author? We will say that the author is mildly concerned. Okay, now let us say there is an author who's talking about European sculpture, and he's so enamored by European sculpture that he's describing it, all the details, all the decor that has gone in, all the art that has gone in, all the vivid colors that have gone in. What is the style? The style might be descriptive, or the style might be elaborative. Okay, that the guy is writing to show, or to describe the vividity of European art and European sculpture, right? And he might be very, very happy or very, very convinced about the details, about the intricacy, and he might be very, very impressed by the whole art and decor. Okay, so what would be the tone in that case? We can say that the author paints a grandiose picture. Okay, now here if you choose something very mild, it's not going to work, because if the author is so happy with the the work that is there, and he is in awe of that work, then it means that he's painting a grandiose picture. So the tone becomes grandiose, right? The style is descriptive or elaborative. Let us say there is a author who's discussing about crime rates going up in a particular state, and he's now criticizing the role of law enforcement agencies, the role of courts, or probably any other agencies that are involved, right? So we can say that he's either critical or he's analytical. Okay, why analytical? Because he's analyzing the reasons that are leading to probably the growth in crime. Okay, why he's critical? Because he's looking at the role of the law enforcement agencies. Okay, and he might be very, very critical. Okay, so he might be very high polarity, but in a negative way. Okay, he feels very, very bad about it. Okay, so here we will say that the tone is cynical. Okay, so are you able to place how tone, style, and polarity go together? It's very nuanced. Okay, so if once you understand this, it will be very, very easy to place any passage in this particular framework and get to the answers. Okay, so this was kind of like the preface that we needed before we get into how is it that the GMAT will actually test you. Okay, so let's look at how the GMAT will test it. Now, these are some of the most common types of questions that you would come across that will be pertaining to tone. For example, one of the most common ways in which they will ask you is that the author's attitude towards population control, if the passage is talking about population control, might be best described as which of the following. This is probably the most common form in which a tone question will be asked. Then they might ask you directly, the tone of the author throughout the passage can be best described as, right? They can also ask you to describe the tone of a particular part in the passage. And this is very critical. Okay, so stay with me. Based on the statements in line 12 to 19, which of the following can be concluded about the tone? Now you have to only look at the stuff that is there in lines 12 to 19. A GMAT passage can have multiple subjects. Okay, generally you will have one subject, but you can probably have two subjects, or for that matter, n subjects. Then in passage 1, I might be dealing, let us say, about one in a positive manner. Okay, let us say I'm like writing a balanced one. Okay, passage 3, I'm positive about the subject 2. Passage 4, I'm negative about the subject 2. Okay, on an overall level, I might be positive on S1 or negative on S2, for example, right? So here is where the difference between having a tone for the entire passage versus having a tone for a particular part or a particular set of lines or a particular paragraph works. Okay, so you always have to look at the overall level, and then if the question is specifically asking you to tell you what is the tone in lines 12 to 19, you must observe only that part of the passage. Okay, because not all all passages, it is not necessary that the author will be positive all the time or negative all the time. He might be happy at some things, he might be not so happy with the other ones. Okay. Now, another way in which they can ask you is that the author of the passage would most likely be termed, and then there'll be a blank, on the basis of the views expressed. Okay. So you can have some variations of how this whole thing is tested. These are just some examples to give you a gist of what to expect. Now, after we have seen how the GMAT is going to test it, let's look at how are you supposed to tackle it. Okay, so how do you handle it? Now, in a question that is relatively easy, you will definitely find certain words with positive or negative connotations. Okay, so as I was discussing, you will have some adjectives, or you will have some adverbs, you will have some nouns, you will have some verbs. They'll probably be pointing to what essentially is the tone. Let's look at some examples. Okay, if let us say if a passage contains some construct like, and this is kind of like a part of the passage, right? The brilliant economists were able to devise a strategy to bring the economy back on track post the devastating recession. Okay, so now what is the fact here? The fact is that there was a recession and the economists were able to bring the economy back on track. Okay, you remember what I told you in the first instance of the discussion that, you know, generally every passage will have some facts. How the author feels about it is essentially where the emotion associated with the fact comes in. Okay, so there has been a devastating recession and the economists have been able to bring the economy back on track. Now, author here is giving you a clear indication that he believes that the economists are brilliant. Okay, so we can immediately say that the tone is appreciative. Okay, we can say it is appreciative. Now, what is the polarity here? The polarity is very high. I am saying they are brilliant. I could have said that they are good, but I am saying they are brilliant, right? Which means I am highly positively polar. Okay. Now, for example, if in the option choices you only had a tone which said option which said appreciative, you could have marked appreciative as your answer and gone ahead. Okay. But if you have an option that is even more polar than appreciative, you have to go for that. Okay. To give you an example, if probably, you know, in the answer choices you have appreciative, then there is an answer choice that says patronizing or says reverent, then probably we'll go with those because these are more extreme instances of appreciative. Okay. Similarly, let's look at another example. If let us say a passage contains a construct like the irresponsible economists, blinded by their maniacal theories, tried creating the worst possible economic system in the post-war period. Okay, so what is, so we know that there is a post-war period and probably we have a very bad economic system in that particular period and the economists were the one responsible. That is fact. What is the emotion? The author thinks that the economists were irresponsible. They were also maniacal, which means they had just too much faith on their own theories. Okay, and they created the worst possible system. Okay, so things like worst, things like maniacal. Okay, so we know that for sure that the polarity is high, right? And the author's tone, it is critical. Hence, if we have an option choice that says, you know, an extreme form of the tone critical, like caustic, we will go with that because the author is beyond critical. Okay, he is very caustic. He is not happy. He is kind of wanting to get back at the economists, right? So, if the option only says critical, we'll use critical. If there is caustic also, we will use caustic. Okay, so these were slightly easier instances where some adjectives or adverbs help guide your decision. Now, what do you do when you have a lot of complex cases? Okay, so in many cases, the tone of the passage will be not as easy to discern as we have seen in the past question, right? And the answer choices will also be probably very, very moderate. Okay, so they will not use a lot of adjectives. It will be very, very close. Now, what do you have to do in those cases, right? Whenever you read the particular passage, okay, put the whole thing in the framework that we discussed. Okay, what is the framework that we have discussed? You have to figure out one, the basic tone, then polarity, and then the style. Okay, also what you have to do is you have to visualize that who wrote the passage and for what purpose. So for example, when you see a passage in the GMAT, it might very well be a newspaper article which would be written by a journalist. Okay, or it might be an article from a scientific journal that has been written by a researcher or a scientist. Then there might be an excerpt from a particular book or a poem or things like that. Similarly, you have multiple use cases, you know. Why this is important is that this will give you a basic idea of the range of emotions. Okay, so for example, the range of emotions in a article that has been written in a journal is going to be much less than what you can expect in a journalist who is writing it. Okay, so this is less than journalist. If, for example, it is an editorial, the editorial will have a slightly lesser range of emotions probably than the journalist. Similarly, an author for the book might have the largest range of emotions, right? So after you figured out what it is, and this should happen even before you read the answer choices, okay? try to place your observations in the framework of polarity, tone, and style. Those are the three things that we have discussed. And then figure out whether the guy is descriptive, whether he is analytical, whether he is critical. Then look at what is the tone that he is expressing. Is he happy? Is he sad? Is he overjoyed? Or is he neutral? Then look at the polarity, whether he is mildly convinced, he is highly convinced, not convinced at all, very critical, less critical, you know. And then after you've done that, go to the option choices that are there. Okay. Now, for example, if you notice that the author is slightly optimistic about the topic, definitely do not choose the answer choice that says euphoric. Okay. So try to, just like the passage is trying to give you a slightly moderate set of choices, you should also try to match moderate with moderate and extreme with extreme. Because in case it is extreme, I think you would be able to handle it like we have discussed any which ways. If the whole thing is moderate, try to stay away from the moderate options and try to match using this particular framework the option choices that are there, because a lot of times the option choices might also be very, very moderate. Okay. What we will do in the next installment of this session is that we will discuss a lot of specific tones that you will keep seeing coming multiple times. Things like cynical, critical, loquacious, didactic, things like that. So we are going to see a list of those particular words, and I want you to be familiar with them so that you can handle most questions related to tone in a easy manner. Okay, that brings us to the end of this session. For people who have not seen our example that we discussed on tone, I would recommend you can go to the previous installment and definitely wait for the next installment to come in for understanding more about tones. Okay. Also, don't forget to subscribe so that you keep getting all the videos of the series. We have been releasing videos. We will continue to release videos in this particular series of 700 plus. Okay, don't forget to like. It motivates us to put out more content like this. And it also helps in reaching this video to a much larger audience. A lot of people might benefit from the same. Okay, so till then, keep preparing.